Brian, you're funny.
I'd like to call to order the special meeting for December 16th, 2025, 4 p.m. First order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. You can declare it now or any time during the meeting. And we do have a delegation today. It's the presentation of the 2023 financial statements. First order of business is we have Councillor Knowles on virtual, and everybody else is here. And so we will turn it over to John from MNP.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks everyone for having us, and appreciate everyone accommodating the virtual presentation today. I was going to complain about the cold weather out there, but it's like a lake in our parking lot. So anyways, we'll take it. Everybody's still there?
We're here.
Okay, great. So just want to do a couple of introductions. I'll introduce myself first again. John Evans, I'm a partner in the Fort Frances office of MNP. I've been involved in the town of Atikokan audit since 2002 in some way, shape, or form. And I've got with me today from our office as well, Harsha Thompson. Harsha is a manager in our office. She's a CPA and a longtime member of the Fort Frances crew. She's been involved with the town of Atikokan since the 2022 audit. And she was heavily involved in 23 as well. She's actually going to do a good portion of the presentation today, but I just kind of wanted to make some opening comments. Few things, I guess, just to highlight. When I was, I guess, first of all, as far as accomplishments for Brandy and for the town, we're here presenting what we think are the final format 2023 financials. So in the calendar year of 25, the 2021 audit was finished. The 2022 audit was finished in September when I visited there, September 22nd. And I said I'd come back at the end of November. I missed that by just a little bit, but here we are in December and hopefully finalizing the 23 audit. So some real pickup on the catch up, and working with Brandy already on information on the 24 audit. So I think, in a perfect world, the plan is that the 24 and 25 audit would be caught up in fiscal or in the calendar year 26, and so you would be totally caught up as far as filings and audit. So that's the plan. Just a few other opening comments. You'll see on our audit report when we get to it, the date of the report is today. We believe that the financial statements are in final format, but we'll be looking to Mayor and Council to approve the financials, and that'll be the final date of our report. The other kind of high level introductory comment I wanted to make that I would have started to talk about when I was there in September is probably the biggest change in the financial statements this year is what's called the asset retirement obligation rules. So essentially, what those rules do are they capture more things for mayor and council to think about as far as obligations in the future. So we always had something called the landfill closure and post-closure liability. These new rules replace that, and they still capture your landfills, but they go deeper further, and they look at things like any potential asbestos in any of your buildings and what the cost it would look like to ultimately remediate that at the end of the asset's life. So we'll get into that a little bit, but I just wanted to kind of remind everyone that the financial statements in 2023 were the first year you had to implement that. And that was a retroactive implementation. So the 2022 numbers also have been updated to reflect that new standard. So that's a lot, but I'm going to turn it over to Harsha, who's going to get us rolling. And I think everybody has draft financials in their package. And I'll turn it over to you, Harsha.
Great. Thank you. Hi, I know John introduced me. I'm Harsha. I've been with the MNP office for almost 9 years now. and I will be continuing to be the manager on this audit going forward for the 24 and 25 year end as well. So on to the financial statements. So these financial statements include all activities of the town, including general operations, the sewer and waterworks, library, Atikokan Hydro, and Enercom. Um, just to point out, Hydro and Enercom year ends are up to date. So that is good. So on page 2, you will see the management responsibility for financial reporting. So this is a PSAS requirement. It describes management's responsibility for the financial statements. It confirms that they have been prepared in accordance with PSAB and that the town maintains systems of internal and administrative controls to provide reasonable assurance that the financial information is relevant, reliable, and accurate, and that assets are adequately safeguarded. The independent auditor's report, which is pages 3 to 4, it indicates the first section, which is the most important section, is the opinion paragraph. And we have it as a clean, unqualified opinion that the financial statements are presented in accordance with Canadian PSAS. The second section is basis for our opinion, which indicates the basis of our opinion in accordance with GAS, which is the generally accepted auditing standards. The third section is the management's responsibilities, which further describes management's responsibility for the fair presentation of the financial statements and any internal controls necessary to ensure that the statements are fairly presented. The last section is the auditor's responsibility section, which describes our reasonability for following Canadian generally accepted auditing standards and obtaining enough audit evidence to express an opinion on the financial statements. We'll move on to the consolidated statement of financial position, page 5. So this is a snapshot of the town as at December 31st, 2023. The statement lists the carrying value of all assets, liabilities, and net assets of the town at December 31st, 2023. Under the financial assets section, cash has gone up by 2.6 million. This is a combination of operating cash and reserve fund cash at the year end. The total cash includes cash on hand that is restricted by council for specific use. Reserves are 3.7 million of that, and also funds restricted by funding agreements, so the gas tax funding, which is approximately 1.35 million of that as well. Taxes receivable has gone up by 84,000, and that represents both taxes receivable and properties in the tax sale process. Management has allowed for the portion of the taxes that they don't believe that they can recover. So the allowance for doubtful accounts receivable was also 637,000 at the end of 2023. Overall, in 2023, 11%. Taxes receivable is 11% of tax revenue compared to 2022 where it was 16% and 21 where it was 9.5%.
Again, just make kind of an overall comment on that. I would say that's obviously a good thing to see the taxes receivable as a percentage of your total taxes falling. That means that the town's doing a better job or being more successful at recovering on the taxes. So that's a good thing.
So accounts receivable was up by 594,000. There's approximately 447,000 outstanding HST rebates at year end. Current year was more than usual, but there was a large capital work that was done, so it does make sense. Compared to 2022, you had 297,000 in outstanding HST rebates. So the accounts receivable is, most of this is due from province. So 1.2 million makes up the balance. And then there's 300, it's up 303,000 from prior year. And most of that is current. So I think there was 1.1 million of OSIF that funding that was received in April 2022, which was set up as part of the receivable. Okay, I think that's investments in government business enterprises. This is up by 332,000 from the prior year. Atikokan Hydro had positive earnings again in 2023 with a surplus of 292,000, and Atikokan Enercom had earnings of 39,900. Do we want to go to the note? I don't.
I just make a general comment on that.
Yeah.
I think Harsha, basically, I mean, those are the assets that you have in Atikokan Hydro and Atikokan Enercom. So because the town owns those entities, it has to be reflected as part of your consolidated statements. But of course, that's not cash or readily available assets that the town of Atikokan has, but it is an asset of the town of Atikokan. So
Yes.
and there's full disclosure, as Harsha said in the notes, of more details of the assets and liability and income of each of those entities as needed. So.
Yep. So I'll move on to liabilities. So accounts payable and accrued liabilities are up 1.3 million from prior year. This includes holdbacks, trade payables, any payroll accruals, and also includes credits on municipal tax accounts of 275,000 and vacation payable of 244,000 as well. Deferred revenue is up 603,000, primarily from three sources. There's gas tax funding of 1.3 million, provincial gas tax of 143,000, and other of 85,000. And included in that 85,000 is 1 year of OSIP funding for $74,000. So the new gas tax agreement gives you 5 years to spend the money now. So you do need to keep an eye on this. As you know, you've used 185,000 of funds in 2023, and I believe Brandy is tracking this.
Yeah, we actually have a management letter point as well, just
Yes.
to recap the 5 years of gas tax funding and each year that it falls off. So that specific information is there, but I know Brandy's tracking it as well.
Employee benefits is up 8,000. An actuary report was done by the firm called Dixon Actuarial Services. The full review was completed for 2022 year end, and there's usually updates for the next 2 years, and the next planned full review will be 2025. Based on review of the reserves for this liability, it is fully funded as the reserve fund for employee benefits exceeds the actuarial estimate at year end. So asset retirement obligations. So this is the new line item that's on the financial statements this year. This includes accretion expense in 2023 for 120,000 for landfills, fuel tank, and asbestos. So this note does replace the solid waste landfill closure note. If you go to note 8, page 18. So you'll see there are 3 different columns on here for landfill, fuel tanks, and asbestos. So the estimates were sent to us by Brandy, and I believe Mayor and Council approved the memo for all of that. So we did the calculations, and so we recognized the asset retirement obligation at December 31st, 2022, and then we recorded an expense in the current year for accretion expense, which you'll see of 120, and then the final obligation at December 31st, 2023 is 5.4 million. the landfill that is closed, that one, the undiscounted future expenditures, so that one will reduce the liability, whereas the other three will increase the liability until it is closed or asbestos, you you do the work to clean up the asbestos in the end.
Yeah. So just kind of like a high level comment on the AROs. The whole point of it all, it's not that different than when contaminated sites rules came in, or when the original um, landfill closure and post closure costs came in. The whole point of it, or the theory of it, is that any entity, whether it's a township or whatever, is supposed to, reflect the fact that there's a cost in the future to closing these things down, right? Or to getting rid of the asbestos, or cleaning up the fuel tank, environmental issues or whatever. And so basically you're accounting for some of that growing liability as time goes on, so that you're considering it, and in theory then charging your taxpayers along the way in your rate base as you go. So that's the purpose of it. Of course, it's not perfect, it's a best estimate. We don't know exactly what the return on your investments are going to be for money you set aside, or what the true future value of that expense is going to be, but it's a best estimate based on what we know now about what those costs are. So that's something that's going to be around, and it's we'll talk to it again when we get to the reserve fund and kind of equity note. We'll speak to that, but that's something that's different this year versus last year.
So the long-term debt, overall decrease of 738,000, and that is due to repayments of the loan. 362,000 of that was CMHC repayment for Main Street. There's capital work loan from 2017 for work in the past for Willow Road and Rec Center. That was paid down to 1.49 million at year end, which is with a reduction of 175,000. There was a sewage system loan from 2020 with work on the sewage plant that was paid down to 1.6 million at year end, which the reduction of 200,000. I don't know if John, do you want to for the reminder for the budget for the long-term debt?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's probably good. Maybe we'll get into it after, because I'm going to speak a little bit to the current surplus and kind of the budget process. So we'll come back to that one. So.
Okay. So the net financial assets are 7 million, just over 7 million, up by 3.5 million from the prior year, due mostly to capital transactions financed through grants through the year. And John will discuss that number a little later in the presentation.
Yeah, well, and just I guess a general comment though, like anytime you have, aside from current fund surpluses, anytime you do a capital project under these rules that's funded by a grant, you're going to inherently have a big surplus. So let's say you get just to simplify it, let's say you get a $2 million grant to do, to build a new building, okay? And that building is going to get recognized as an asset of the town for $2 million. But we're going to write that building off over, say, 40 years. So like, over the 40 years, we're going to take a part, we're going to amortize that building, take a small deduction to recognize it's getting used up. But we're going to recognize 100% of the grant in the year that you build it. So it's kind of I think it's a little bit strange, but it's definitely unique to public sector accounting, but that's how it works. So anytime you're building brick and mortar assets with grants, you're going to end up with big increases in your surplus and correspondingly your net financial assets.
So your capital assets, their total is $58,309,054, which is an increase of 2 million in additions, or 2.6 million in additions, net of amortization of 1.7 million. So the additions were 2.6 million, which includes 268,000 in buildings, 2.07 million in linear assets, so sewer and water, et cetera, for the Mercury Avenue project. 43,000 for computers, 117,000 for a vehicle, and 112,000 for storm sewers. So the carry forward surplus at the end of the year is $65,620,696. So what does that mean? If we go to note 11, or did you want to
Yeah,
discuss that?
no, that's good. No, if you want to go to note 11,
Okay.
that's great. So everybody can turn to note 11.
Okay. So accumulated surplus, this is capital assets less the debt, which makes up 54 million of your surplus, which gives general operating surplus of 7.3 million. And I think John was going to speak more
Yeah, I'll
about
come back
this.
to that in a minute. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
So you have your landfill closure, which I guess should be the asset retirement obligations there, of 5.4 million. And then employee future benefits includes the 689,000. And then all your reserve funds, which makes up the 3.7 million plus the working capital reserve of 643,000 and other reserves of 535,000. And then investment in government business enterprises, which makes up 5.1 million for a total surplus of 65 million.
Yeah,
there.
so just to make a couple of overall comments. When I was there in September, I talked about this a little bit, the fact that the general operating surplus was fairly significant, but it's really just what needs to happen, I think, is that we need to earmark what those funds are for, right? So if certain money should be set aside for certain projects or future liabilities, then some of that surplus needs to be allocated to reserve funds, right? Now we're in catch-up mode, right? So like when we were here in September, it's the same story as now. As it's hard to know exactly where you're at and know where to put the money into what reserves until you kind of have a better idea of what you're at. So one of the things that Brandy and I spent a bunch of time talking about was, well, twofold. One is getting caught up and then figuring out, letting mayor and council decide what should be done with those funds. Like, do we have and kind of a full review of your reserves and reserve funds too, to say, like, it's been a long time since a lot of them were set up. Basically a full review to say, is everything, are reserve funds what we want them to be, and are they in line with our plans? Are they in line with our asset management plan? All these different things. So that was one recommendation for the future, is taking a kind of a deeper dive in the reserve funds. Number two is deciding what's going to happen with some of this general operating fund. Now, with that being said, I've already taken a look at what was included in the 24 and 25 budget process. So some of that reserve has already been built into the 24-25 budgeting process. So some of that has already gone away. We just haven't reported on yet. So I think at the end of 24, we're going to have a much better idea of where exactly that is. Okay.
We'll move on to the statement of operations, unless anyone has questions about the financial position. Okay, I will move on to the statement of operations. So revenue, taxation was up 319,000. The tax assessment increases. That's what it includes. It's still a really large portion of taxes from the PILs, which is about 4 million in 2023 and makes up about 44% of tax revenue. And the PILs are 19,000 higher. Taxes 197,000. Federal grants similar to prior year, but slightly down by 30,000. Provincial grants are up by 1.196 million, which includes 1.6 million in OMPF grant and $1 million in OSIF grants. User fees and service charges are up 280,000, primarily more fuel sales at the airport, waste management fees increase in tipping fees and recreation fees. Municipal grants up 10,000, which is mostly the POA. Income from government business enterprises. So as discussed, both entities had positive earnings during the year. The turnaround at Atikokan Hydro was substantial. Other income was up by 348,000. This includes interest income, which was up in 2023 by 376,000. $25,000 in donation from Hydro One for library donations, and there was also a decrease in land sales of 79,000. Your expenses increased about 40,000 from the prior year. If you look at note 15 on page 24, it shows you a breakdown of the expenditures by object. I won't go into detail about that though, because it's fairly similar to the prior year. Surplus. So your current year surplus is 4.49 million. John has already gone through and explained the surplus and the treatment of capital grants. Trust audit, that is on pages 31 to 34. Did you want to talk about the trust audit at all, John?
I don't think there's probably anything specific on that. We again have a clean audit opinion on the trust. The only trust that the township has at this point is the cemetery trust. So there's just basically cash sitting there that has to be held under the perpetual care rules or what have you. So we had no concerns there, and it's a clean audit opinion. So
I think that was it.
okay. Does anybody have any questions on the financials or specifics that they want us to address?
No, I don't see any, John.
Okay. Like I said, I think the towns, that it's continue to accumulate cash and reserves. The balance sheet is strengthening. Obviously, we're working towards getting you caught up so you can do some, better planning, I guess, with that information. But in the meantime, there's more cash there. There's more, your balance sheet is getting stronger. Your financial position is getting stronger, which I think is a good thing. There's going to be a management letter, as I referred to earlier. So in there, the only item we talk about is the use of the gas tax funds, and making sure they don't expire. We didn't have any other concerns. And then our package also will include what we call a representation letter. So that's something that Brandy will sign, saying that she's provided us all the information we need in order for us to do our audit, which we'll get. There's the financial information return. That's the municipal reporting. So we've provided that to Brandy. She'll do her part, which is adding municipal stats and some of the other board information, and submit that. There's an independence letter confirming our independence of the township and our ability to objectively do the year-end audit. And that's it. So we're like I said, really happy to have the 3 years completed this year and have a plan to get you caught up. So that's everything we had. Yep.
Oh, yes, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. John, if I may, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in the last time you were here giving us a report, you said that Atikokan realized some money, that we had some money coming in. I can't remember what the figure was. Were we fortunate enough to do the same on this report?
You mean like unreceived grants?
Something, government money, yes. I can't recollect exactly, but We
Yeah,
did
I don't think
realize
there's
some
any
money.
withheld. I don't think there's any funds withheld right now. Brandy, can you speak to that? I don't believe there's anything that's been held
No.
back at this point.
No, everything's paid up to
Okay.
date.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
thank you.
certainly that was a concern though, that once, the audits are a certain period of time behind, then the funding agencies will hold back funding, and that's, yeah, we're definitely making some real progress there, and nothing's being held back right now.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Either did a great job, John, or you didn't put us to sleep, one or the other. But we appreciate being the hard work that's gone on with your firm and our people here, Brandy and her team, in getting 3 audits done in a year is really substantial. And so I just see next year getting 2 shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, just so appreciate that. And I don't know if you have anything else for us.
No, just appreciate the business. We'll try and keep the momentum going on our end, obviously, to support you. And everything we need signed is going to be sent electronically to Brandy and Rob. So you can watch for that today. And hopefully council approves the draft financials, and we're off to the next year.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll
Yep.
jump off, and have a great holiday if we don't see or talk to anybody before then.
Thanks,
You as
everyone.
well.
Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you. Happy holidays.
You too.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Okay, yeah, and I'd just like to reiterate that again, that, our finance people did a great job, Randy and her team. Thank you for bringing us up to where we are today, and we see some light at the end of the tunnel, and it's, as moving forward, we're really looking to being completely caught up and then moving the town business forward. So, thank you for that. So next on the agenda is Administration and Employee Relations, alternate voting service provider. Clerk Bates, you'd like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Before council, there's a report. Me and Nikisha have been meeting with a few potential voting providers. We've received 2 quotes from Lumi Global and Simply Voting. Our recommendation is that council authorize us to forgo the procurement policy and go with Simply Voting. We do have a limited supply of experienced internet voting providers. They seem to be one of the best ones out there, with over 50 Ontario municipalities using them in the last election, and Red Lake, Dryden, and Sioux Lookout are using them in the 2026 election. So we are hoping that council will agree, and we can bring a resolution in January for that.
Do you have any questions or comments from anybody? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Madam Clerk, we're not going to bring a resolution ahead until January, but they've only kept the spot open till the 19th.
Yes. So she had said, I told her that I would be bringing this to council today. She will hold us a spot. She doesn't need an actual resolution until January, as long as I let her know that council has agreed, and then we'll pass it. I will send it to her then in January, and then we'll work on an agreement, which an agreement will come back to council.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Stimson.
I was just wondering, what is more expensive, the online or the going the way of the what we used to do with the actual voting polls?
Online voting definitely is more expensive. In 2018, my last report, I can't remember how much it was. Just over 10 maybe for in-person voting. It's just we find this is quicker, easier, and more convenient and reliable.
And I think we get a bigger turnout doing it this way. We want to get as many people to vote as we can, and this really makes it easier for people that aren't around, aren't in town, aren't able to get to the polling station in that time frame. That and really we want the biggest percentage of people voting to be out there voting. But it is, as Clerk Bates said, it is more expensive. But just my comment on taking the simply voting quote is, I don't think it's something you want to cheap out on a voting system. You want to have the most reliable, the most efficient, most experienced voting people, and to take the lowest vote, I don't think really, in this instance, really serves the community the best. Yes.
Thank you,
Councilor
Mayor
Lyons.
Ferguson. Just two things. I wholeheartedly agree with you that we do want to ensure the integrity of the vote going forward, so I support moving ahead with the proposal. Also, just to reconfirm with Clerk Bates, because I have had some community feedback, that there will be an option for supports provided here at Town Hall should people want to come in person to vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So they'll be voting online, but they'll just get support to do it, right? Okay, so do we have a consensus to authorize the clerk department to move forward with the simply voting people? Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
And next we'll move to bylaw number 39-25, an agreement with CUPE Local 87.12. Moved by Councillor Stimpson, seconded by Councillor Shine. Be it resolved that bylaw number 39-25, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with CUPE Local 87-12, to be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Yes.
So just to remind everyone, the bargaining committee did meet with the union last month. After several days of negotiations, we were able to bring an agreement forward. The union has since held a ratification vote and accepted the proposed agreement. So we're now asking council to approve a 4-year collective agreement, retro Jan 1, 2024. In addition to wages, obviously, the settlement included housekeeping updates, renewed letters of understanding that clarified existing practices with no material financial impact beyond the negotiated increases. There was also no new benefit changes to the contract. The agreement includes general wage increases of 2.35% in 2024, 2.75% in 2025, and 2.95% in both 26 and 27. We're hoping to have the retroactive pay back to Jan 1, 2024 paid out before the end of the year. And happy to take any questions.
Any questions? We discussed that, I think it was an in-camera session, but does anybody have any questions, comments they want to make? Not in camera? Okay, hearing nothing. In favor of passing? Great, carried. And again, I'd like to thank the negotiating committee on both sides, the union side and the management side, on doing a great job and moving this forward. So congratulations on that. Okay, next we'll move to finance. First order of business is to accept the 2023 financial statements. Moved by Councillor Shine, second by Councillor Stimpson. Resolved that the town of Atikokan accept the 2023 audited financial statements as prepared by MNP LLP. Does anybody want a discussion on that? It's just what we've heard. In favor? Carried. A nice order of business to clear up by the end of the year. Next, we'll go to financial period ending November 30th, 2025, and I'll turn that over to Brandy.
Okay, so this is the report as of November. I haven't even actually had a chance to review it myself, but I will have some better, because it's year end, I will have some better reporting coming in January and February. Any questions on anything in here?
Any questions from anybody on this? Yes, Councillor Stimpson.
I see there's nothing, online there about, here about, gonna be doing any demolitions?
I believe Chief Warburton is on the line. He can speak to that.
What's that?
Chief Warburton is on the line, so he can speak to that.
Chief
Yeah.
Warburton, are you there? Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, we're working daily with the contractor. Obviously, weather is a concern. As I mentioned for the last meeting, there was some delays in getting the utilities out of the ground. They're gone. I am speaking literally daily to the local contractor that has been awarded the contract, and they have it planned to come down this year as discussed in the last meeting.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Brandy or comments? Anything else? Okay, there's a couple items, Brandy, I'd just like to discuss where I know we're moving things into reserves. That's on the agenda for today as well, but there's a couple bigger ticket items that aren't going to, well, I wouldn't say get spent, but aren't going to come close to the budget, the actuals to the budget. Are we going to get information on that at the end of the year, or how does that situation get worked out?
Part of it will be in our reserves discussion, because a project that is unfinished or has unspent funds, we would generally put into reserve if it's a specific project. So we may end up going over it when we go through reserves.
Yes, Councillor Stimpson.
Thank you. Maybe you could fill the rest of us in what these two things are that you were talking about?
Well, I just look in, one of the things I look at is we put money into street lighting. We were gonna upgrade street lights in town, and we never got it done. So right now, we're sitting at a $93,000 surplus, where we're probably gonna end up with like a $80,000 surplus. I was just wondering, we've got that money in there to do the street lights. We didn't do it this year. Hopefully we can do it next year, but I don't want to see us put it in the budget and be asking taxpayers to fund that again if we didn't do it this year. That's always, and I think I say this every year, but this is something that's near and dear to my heart, so.
Yeah, I can provide more comment on that one
Tyler.
for sure. So we got the design done, and we've approved the purchase of the lights through Hydro. This is kind of the standard timeline that we do the street lights. They typically kind of save that for like winter projects. So that's why we're just rolling it into reserves, and then they'll use that up probably like February or so when the lights come in.
Okay.
So that budget line will be utilized.
So that budget goes towards into next year's budget.
So in the reserves resolution, we're putting $40,000 of that money into reserves for next year.
Okay,
We still have a couple months worth of bills to
yeah,
receive, so we will have more of that budget spent, but $40,000 of it has been earmarked for reserves.
I was kind of saving my comment for the draft, the reserves draft, but I don't want council to be guilted into, we have to take money out of reserves to fund our projects. I just want to make sure that when we didn't spend $200,000 on patching and we're asking for $300,000 next year, that the $200,000 we didn't spend goes into next year.
So that's generally the purpose of this resolution that we're doing today.
Yeah.
So you have a project for $1 million that you expect to be done. And then, oops, it only got half done. So now we have budgeted $1 million, but we've only spent 500. So we take the extra 500, put it into reserves, and then in next year's budget, we take that 500 out to finish that project.
Right.
So it's
But
net
it's-
zero.
But as long as it's communicated that way, that we are not taking $500,000 out of reserves to pay for a project. We're taking $500,000 out from working reserves that we put in because of this. I just want that to be communicated, because it always feels like we get guilted about taking money out of reserves when it is put in the reserves for that sole purpose is to use it again, or use it the next year.
Yeah, so one of the first things I do in the budget process is I take all this money that was left for a specific project and put it in the budget and put the reserves in the budget. And then after that, you have to look at whether you have to take more or less or different projects and that sort of thing, but.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Stimson.
Thank you for explaining that, because now I get it, and I get where you're coming from, so I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions for Brandy? Anything else, Brandy?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, thank you. And we'll go carrying on that same theme, year-end reserves. Over to Brandy again.
Okay, so this is always a mad dash, and we're making projections because I'll be getting bills for the next 3 months yet on some of these projects. So basically what we do is we try to determine where we're at today, what we have outstanding, and what we're going to have left at the end of the year, accounting-wise. So, and there is supposed to be a little disclaimer on this sheet, just saying that some of the balances are subject to change with year-end adjusting entries, because there are a couple for 24 that aren't complete, and there will be 25 adjusting entries. So this December 25th balance, December 31st, 25 balance will change with the adjusting entries. So basically, IT reserve, $10,000, we were under budget. I'm gonna skip working capital and just go through all the easy stuff. Sick leave severance, our annual increase is 102,000, so that's our what our actuarial report comes back with, what it should be. So every year I try to put in enough to make up the difference. And then if you recall, in the last budget, we took money out of reserves because we had been budgeting annually for an increase of wages for the contracts, but then the contracts weren't renewed. So each year we were budgeting extra, and then when they didn't get renewed, we put the money into reserves. So having one contract done and 2 outstanding, I'm putting back in $80,000. Fire department, $800,000 for the truck. Now this is, we've already paid for half of the truck, but accounting-wise, we don't recognize the asset until we receive it, and so we have to do the full $800,000, even though we've already spent half of that money cash-wise. The fit test came in under budget by like $9,500, so we're going to put that money back into just general equipment fire reserve. $5,000 was underspent in radios and pagers. And then if you recall, we had planned for a retirement this year and had planned to have overlap labor. And that didn't happen, so that's going into reserves, $40,000. And then clothing, clothing is a deceiving word, and I'd like to change that when we do the reserve review. That is one, contractual obligations we have through the fire department, but it also is fire equipment, bunker gear, that sort. It's not just t-shirts, and it's safety clothing. Yeah. And that was what was remaining in that budget.
I don't want to interrupt, Brandy, but when you have a moment, I've got a question or an input.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just in regard to clothing. One of the reasons also we have that extra money left is that the people we buy our uniforms from no longer take post-payment. They want payment up front. So we've had to change a vendor. So that money would be allocated for uniforms also.
Okay. Graham was also lucky enough to get a grant for some PPE and things this year as well. Okay, demolitions, 60,000. Road construction, so this is 1.4 for the ISIP project and 200,000 patching. Bridges, 450,000. Equipment, the annual 150,000, the annual budget allocation going directly to reserves. The street lighting, 40,000. The environment, this is the landfill. So this is the extra revenue so normally when it comes to putting into reserves, when it comes to revenue, I generally don't put revenues into reserve. For one, because it's normally not a lot of difference. But these past few years, we've had quite a significant difference. Another example is interest revenue. The interest rate skyrocketed, so we had a big surplus in interest revenue. But I didn't put that into reserves because it's not really allocated to any specific, so I just left it in surplus. But in this case, so this is extra revenue from the landfill. So we're putting it back into the landfill. So this environmental reserve is generally only used for the what is now ARO, but used to be the landfill liability. So that's something we need to look at as well when we do our reserve review. The airport is another one. When there's fires, we end up making a lot of money on fuel. So this year we're actually putting 100 into airport from the extra fuel sales. Recreation, I have 5,000 for the LFRC building, 4,500 for the groomer, and the annual 5,000 for Charleston that is allocated every year. And rec wellness, the 65,000 for the pool deck. The library, generally we don't put money, the library's surplus goes directly into reserves, but the library does have some money segregated for shelving and for programming and for building, so that's why I've identified it on here. And for the water fund, we had $130,000 in new revenue estimate. We're putting back in $20,000 for the bulk water system, $250,000 for the sewer for the ISIP areas, and $400,000 left over from what our expectations are, what we have to spend for the O'Brien project. So now I'll get back up to working capital. I was trying to tie this in with the financial statements and trying to make it make sense, but I may have made it more confusing. So as for working capital, $400,000 for the culvert, 115 for the dam, 40,000 for public works building, 30,000 for the pit to crush wrap, 20,000 pay equity, 25,000 doctor recruitment funds, and this is where I was trying not to confuse you. So if you recall, when we did the financial statement review, it talked about a 7.5 million surplus. So this is all a timing issue. So normally what we do is we do our budget, and then at the end of the year, we do our year end, and we know what our surplus deficit is. Because we got behind, we didn't know what our surplus deficit was, so we didn't use it in our budget. And then now we are using, like for 2025, we use 2022's surplus numbers. So our financial statements show that we have 7.5 at the end of 2023. So then in 2024, we would have taken out 1.687056 of 2020 surplus, and then in 2025 we would have taken 2.910199. So of that 7.5, we have spent 4.6 almost in the last couple years' budgets. But so when I do 2024's year end, that 7.5 will go in there, and the 2020 surplus will come out. So at this point, and then for 2026, I'm going to need a couple million of that for the budget. So I was trying to show the actual number, because all of a sudden, because we never had that 7.5 in there, and then now we do, and then to show you how it's been allocated. And again, 2020, and it should actually be in 2024's financial statements. Yes. Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to lie, I'm right confused by this, but we'll get there, I'm sure. You mentioned the surplus deficit and how this has been changing going into the various budget seasons, and this is based on 2022 or 2023?
What number are you talking about?
The working capital.
Okay, so the working capital is almost all surplus deficit. There's some money in there for the industrial mall. There's a few little things, but the bulk of it, yes, is the surplus deficit.
Okay, so do we have an idea of what our surplus deficit is going to be going into 2026 if it's based off, if this is based off on the audited financials?
Well, so basically, no, we won't know. You don't know your surplus deficit until the financial statements are done. Okay. We have a general idea, like that's why I do this report, or this reserve transfer. So I basically try to allocate all of the capital or projects, so it's not having to be budgeted again, or raising taxes for that same project. But when it comes to general revenues or general operational expenses and that, we generally don't do any reserve transfers. So that ends up being your surplus deficit.
Okay.
So I do a guesstimate as to what our surplus deficit is going to be at when I do this reserve transfer. So at this point, we should have a surplus. But yeah, we don't know that, and that's how this surplus deficit number got so out of hand, is because we've been behind. So we weren't using, normally you you use your surplus, the boom rate every year. Well, we haven't been doing that because we haven't known that number.
So does that mean that for the last number of years, because our audited financials haven't been up to date, that we've been gathering or collecting this surplus and making decisions to raise taxes without knowing that? And my question's kind of two parts. And what is the risk going forward? And I can appreciate Mayor Ferguson putting the limit on for the 2% tax increase going into 2026. But what is the risk going forward into the 2026 budget season if we don't have this information?
No, I know we already have enough to cover a couple $1 million for 26.
Okay.
I haven't done the budget yet, so I don't know, but I don't expect there to be issues.
Okay, yeah, my only concern was, we're hearing a lot of feedback about tax increases, and I just wouldn't want to, go into there and, support something that has the maximum tax increase if we have the money available and can, manage sustainably going forward.
Yeah, so we will be using the surplus for our budget. Like I said, normally we do, every year we do, but when we got behind, there was a couple years where we didn't, which is why it's accumulated, and now we're backtracking.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. My question is in regards to what Councillor Lyons said also. So when the mayor had asked for a 2% and to be ready for February, exactly how are we going to know how much we can use out of reserves without depleting the reserves? Because the auditors have told us over the years, as Mayor Ferguson is aware, that we should not be depleting our reserves. How close are we going to be to doing that?
Well, without doing the budget yet, I don't know, but I don't expect there to be a problem. I don't, just from what I've seen and what we have in reserves from our surplus and what, I don't expect it to be a problem, but having said that, I haven't done the budget yet, so.
Because in line, the 2% sounds great, but also the people who live in the community still expect projects to be completed and for new projects to be added to the budget lines moving forward. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
Yeah,
or are we going to have to kind of curtail moving ahead?
In this year, I don't think it'll be a problem, but moving forward, it will be a problem because essentially, like, let's say you were to keep it at 2% every year. Well, at some point, I mean, your cost of living, everything goes up more than 2%. So at some point, you're falling behind. So right now, we're in a good position. So I think we can make up and not take enough from reserves to and the increase in revenues to cover that the 2% won't be an issue. But my fear would be moving forward if we were to keep doing that at some point. I don't know if you recall, but years and years ago when, yeah, and then I can't remember if it was a 10 or 12% increase we had to implement because it was 0, 0, 0, 0. So at some point it's going to bite you. So
we do need to use a lot of caution.
My concern isn't this year, but in the future, if that was to continue, yeah.
Thank you. My other question is, if Jason, when you provide the next update in your report in January, could you give us a life expectancy on the handy vans? I know the two of them must be getting close to their, like, what situation are they in, and when are we going to have to look at replacing them?
Just to those comments, when we throw numbers around, like, I remember 20 years ago we did this and then we had to do that. If we're going to make those comments, I would like to see some documentation to prove these statements, because going by, past practices or when somebody says this is what happened, maybe there had to be an increase, but maybe there was a reason for that increase. So when you throw a number out that if we do this more than 1 year, we're gonna have to raise the taxes 10%. I think I would like to see some documentation to back that up. And by going to 2% instead of 3%, what's the difference on that? $100,000 difference in tax revenue for 1%?
No, but my point is, logically speaking, if you're not raising your levy the same as your expenses, you end up in a deficit. So,
Oh, yeah, obviously, you can only spend what you make, right? That's kind of common sense how most of us run our households. But to make a general statement saying, if we do this, we're gonna have a 10% or 12% increase in a few years is
that's not what I said.
making it is scaring people, and it's fueling into people not understanding what's going on.
That's
So when
not
I
what I
go,
said.
well, that's what I just heard. And then when I go around town, I hear from taxes. That's what everybody complains about. So we try to bring it down a little bit. We are generating revenue. We gotta get our finances up to date so we know where we are. So we can't make just bold-faced statements saying, if we do this more than a few years, we're gonna have a 10 or 12% increase. I think that's the wrong thing to say without having
not
some
what I said.
documentation going forward.
So I will repeat myself. Historically, that's what happened, was the 0, and then we had to raise it.
We never said, nobody's saying zero. I didn't
No,
hear anybody say zero.
I didn't say 0. I'm
You
telling
said 0.
I'm telling you historically what happened. What I'm saying is, in the future, if we don't raise our taxes enough to cover the increase in inflation and the increase in contractors and all that kind of stuff, you end up behind the 8 ball.
If you're not generating
I'm
more
not saying
revenue to cover that, right?
I don't know what your intention is for the future years. I'm just saying that if we don't do that, we will run into trouble.
My
But
intention is not to have the highest tax rate in northwestern Ontario. Yes, Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Yes, and further to what you're stating about, I think we should be rephrasing this and looking at our proposed budget when we come up, not just at raising taxes. And I know we've looked at our fee schedules already, and there will be some increases in the coming year, but we also need to look at how we are going to be generating that difference in the requirements in order to meet our needs. So whether that is identifying where we are going to be finding sources of additional revenue, or where it would be great to see also on that where we are going to be cutting some of the costs within the town itself, not necessarily on projects, but just where we can trim a little bit here and there. That all plays a role in keeping those taxes low.
Thank you, Councillor Lyons.
So I haven't, again, worked on the budget yet, but my expectation is to take most of the money from reserves. From what I've seen before, I haven't seen a lot of cutting or, but there will be increases in revenue that should mitigate that.
Okay, but similar to what Councillor Shine had said, if we're going to be continuing to take from reserves, and I'm assuming that's on top of what we are just kind of moving along from this year, we're going to be in a situation where our reserves become depleted. So if we could look at areas where we are also going to be generating additional revenue.
Yes, but
would be great.
Again, the surplus, the annual surplus, we always use that in our budget.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. This year, it will be coming from reserves instead of just being the annual surplus deficit entry because of the fact that we're behind.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's not a big difference in normal practice, is I guess what I'm trying to say. We're not depleting reserves more than usual. It's the normal. We'll be taking the normal surplus deficit. It's just coming from reserves instead of just being budgeted for the next year.
Taking the whole reserves terminology out of it, we're using what hasn't been spent this year for projects and carrying it over to ensure that they're going to be spent next year on the project.
We're actually going to be spending the surplus from 2022 and 2023 possibly.
Oh, so we haven't even spent that out yet?
Yes.
But we're continuing to raise taxes?
Well, that will be used this year. Again, I haven't done the budget yet, so I don't expect I don't expect the 2% increase to be an issue.
Okay. But potentially going forward, it could be.
If you don't raise your taxes enough annually,
Sorry, if
eventually
we
it
don't
would be.
find other sources of revenue.
Well, there's not a lot of revenue when it comes to.
We can find revenue. There's ways to do that, but thank you.
So, but it's limited. I mean, they're short of cutting services, and special projects, it's pretty much status quo. It's difficult to make significant changes to affect the tax base. In this case, we're in a good position because of the extra revenue we've had.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. My question would be this. We have this wonderful asset management plan. We should be taking a look at that moving forward and maybe developing a 5-year plan of what we want to see moving forward. I know we have a new election year coming up, but maybe it's time for us and the new council that comes forward trying to develop a 5-year plan for each department as what they want to accomplish in that 5 years, so we have a better understanding of where we have to start looking for extra money, extra grants. And another thing would be explaining to the community, so my taxes are, say, $2,000 a year. What is that $2,000 going for? It goes for policing, right? It goes towards all of these things. It just doesn't go to keep our roads paved. And I think a lot of people that I've spoken to didn't understand that exactly what kind of things we have to pay for. We have to pay for DSAP. We have to pay for the OPP. We pay for recruitments for that. We pay for the extra lighting that's done. Are people aware of what their actual tax dollar goes to? It's just a matter of educating them so they have a better understanding as over the years that we've had to come to understand being on council. I don't think that's a bad thing to think of. Just a comment.
Councillor Stimson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. You were saying there a minute ago that if somebody says something, you want some facts along with it. So I'm going to ask Councillor Lyons, where's you said, oh, we have other sources of we can get other sources of funding. Can I have some examples, please?
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, we can always look at what sort of revenue can be generated within the community, and this doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, you know, staying within the box. Look outside the box. There's ways to do that. There can be cuts to services if necessary. I'm not saying that's a preferred option. I certainly wouldn't want that, but it is an option. There can be service fee increases, which we have started to do and are realizing some of the benefits. Also managing that so that it's sustainable for citizens, and also looking within at where we can trim some of the excess going forward. So there are multiple options on the table, but it really is a balancing act for our council and administration to look at going forward. And I'm not saying that we haven't been doing that. I'm just saying that it will help, as we usually do going forward, to ensure that taxes remain low and lie within our the strong mayor directive that's been put forth, and the same going forward.
I'm just glad that I heard you weren't wanting cuts.
Oh no, I certainly am not supporting any cuts to services, but I'm just saying that those are various options that can be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to also just kind of take a positive spin on this. And I mean, we're talking about the working capital, which is fine, and it's good conversation happening. But there was a time not that long ago when, you know, our reserves were not in good shape. And I think that we've done an excellent job, Mayor and Council and administration, to increase our reserves. When I think of the sick leave, the severance reserve, the environmental reserve. We have done a really good job of increasing those reserves. They're very important. I think having a tax stabilization reserve fund is important moving forward for those tax limits. But I think beyond that, you know, I'm pleased to see that our reserves are in much better shape than they were not that long ago.
Okay, so I have a resolution to move the money into reserves, so I think we had a good discussion on that. So it's moved by Councillor Lyon, seconded by Councillor Martin. Resolve that the following be transferred into reserves. That's what Brandy just went over. So we will move this money into reserves if we are in favor. So in favor of the moving into reserves? Carried. Next is 2026 insurance resolution. Everybody had time to look at that. So maybe Brandy or Jason, you can have a discussion for the people that can't see. What's the increase on our insurance for this year?
So we're expecting it to be around $150, give or take. The average around the treasurers group that I deal with and then regionally has been 5% average increase. I expected a larger increase this year because last year we went to market and we got such a reduction, so I expected a larger increase this year than the average. So I'm really happy that it's basically stayed status quo. And we also increased our coverage 6% on all our property and buildings and that sort of thing. So I was very happy to see this.
So on a $345,000 bill, it went up $150.
Yeah, give or take. There was one number they hadn't received yet, and it was only around 150. So $500, give or take, because the PST allocations and stuff like that always change the number, which is why we always word the resolution to give a little leeway. But yeah, so $500
okay.
Would probably be the maximum increase.
Okay, be happy if my home insurance only went up that much, never mind municipalities. So moved by Councillor Stimpson, seconded by Councillor Shine. Resolve that, I'm sorry, any questions or comments on the insurance increase? Moved by Councillor Stimpson, seconded by Councillor Shine. Resolve that Council of the Town of Atikokan renew the insurance coverage for 2026 with the Westland Insurance Group Limited and pay up to the amount of $340,000, including taxes. In favor? Carried. And next, finally, is the 2026 OPP billing statement.
Okay, so if you recall last year we got a billing statement and the OPP had skyrocketed because they had done some of their contract renewals. And then so the province stepped in and gave us a discount. So for this year, they did a review of the billing model, and we should have had like $100,000 increase, but they have capped the increase at 11%. So it'll be a $81,000 increase from last year.
Okay. Councillor Shine?
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. How will this amount affect the 24/7 OPP model that's coming back out for our community? Are we going to have to look for money?
I don't believe it should affect this number, but I'm not really familiar with.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Changes.
At the Police Services Board meeting. It doesn't affect, we pay a base rate plus the calls for service.
Right.
And the reason they went to 24-hour, back to 24-hour policing is because they did crunch the numbers, and for the 4 hours that there wasn't any policing, the overtime basically proved more than what being staffed for 24 hours is. So if anything, going to 24 really lowered their cost overall. Any questions on that? No resolution? Nothing? Information?
It'll be incorporated into the 26 budget.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving forward, number 6A, land acknowledgement information. Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. So as you're aware, this is going to be another time I'm coming forward. This time I'm just asking for a recommendation that the Atikokan Town Council accept a corporate-wide land acknowledgement, and that a draft land acknowledgement will be presented at a future meeting for council discussion and approval. So I sent out some information to all of you. I sent it through Brandy and asked her to forward to you. I hope you all took the opportunity to read it. I tried to keep it limited because there is a lot of information out there. I have a lot of other information as well. I do want to say, Councillor Johnson, I do appreciate that you've lived here for 4 generations, but that's what a land acknowledgement is. I also want to say that we as a council and as a community should be proud of how we have received the new cultures that have moved into our community, and that's something for us to be quite proud of. I did send out an email to both Lac La Croix and Seine River with no response. I now have their fax numbers, so I will be reaching out to them through that. I did meet an elder, actually, by the name of Gary Counselor. I will be meeting with him in the new year to discuss the land acknowledgement. I also reached out to our Rainy River District, who then put me in touch with a Fort Frances counselor, who sent me a bunch of information that I can forward on to you as well. They are having to revisit their land acknowledgement because they failed to have the word Métis in it. They also have an Indigenous association that they work with, which is a wonderful thing to see, so they are going to be putting me in touch with them. This is something that's near and dear to me, and I don't want us to make the mistake of having to come forward and constantly be readjusting our land acknowledgement. This is important to the community. It is important to the Indigenous and the Métis people that live within our community, and this is something that I strongly believe in. And I'm hoping that the rest of council will believe in that. I have some information from AMO that they also are moving forward with developing and redeveloping theirs, and I have the information available. If you would like to have a copy of it, I can send it forward to you. I do want to say that alone within our Rainy River District, we have 11 reserves. So we as a community should be acknowledging that, appreciating that. We have a strong Métis group within our community. We not only have one, we have several. This is important to us, especially as we identified it within our strategic plan. If we do not want to move forward with this, I would recommend that we remove the word Indigenous from our strategic plan. And this is something I feel very strongly about. So I'm hoping I can get a recorded vote on this. And if Councillor Lyons has something to say, because I know there was something came out in regards to her that she wanted to, from another councillor.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel in this day and age, it's not just a local commitment that we need to make towards reconciliation. It's not provincial, it's not national. This is a worldwide commitment that has been identified through the United Nations in determining the rights of Indigenous peoples. As you stated, Councillor Shine, in our community, we are very blessed to have, not only a strong Indigenous presence through, and in our district, as you stated, the 11 First Nations and our multiple Métis community members. And I think the least that we can do is recognize who came before us.
Thank you, Mayor, Councillor Lyons. I do want to say a special thank you to the Atikokan Progress, who covered this wonderfully in 2 of their editions. I have copies of them here as well, if no one happened to take the time to read them. They had some comment, a section on there from AMO, which is strongly recommending it. And they gave some wonderful information that was available to the public. So I think it's really important that we do move forward on this and try to adapt a land acknowledgement that will acknowledge both the Indigenous and the Métis people within our community, within our region, so that we can move forward having a stronger working relationship with them.
Yes, Councillor Stimson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. My comment last meeting, I was talking, I'm really ticked that we took away no, I know, but I'm saying why I said what I did last time.
Yeah.
All right. I said that I don't want it in, I said before, that I think we should have one. Everybody else has one. But as long as, like Councillor Shine said, we're going to get it. And I would like to see something that says we live on this land united. Because if we're not united, we're divided. And I don't know. I don't know if my comment last time was taken that I don't want it, because I said I have nothing against it, but I just, as long as it's something that we can have our little, if we can add something or take something away or whatever, then that's fine by me. I just don't want something and say, this is what you have to say. You know, if there's something that we'd like to say, like myself, I'd like that word where we're united. That would be great. But we'll have to see when that comes up. But I'll vote in favor of it.
Councillor Sean, did you have your hand up?
Yes, but it's okay. I thought he was going to speak in regards to something else. That's okay.
Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Further to Councillor Stimson's comments about united, you know, the purpose of a land acknowledgement isn't just to do what the cool kids are doing. It really needs to be about a meaningful acknowledgement and recognizing past injustices, recognizing who came before us, and also the contributions, previous and current and in the future, of working together, and how we're learning from past mistakes and how we intend to go forward unitedly.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. That's very well said. If you don't learn the history of the Indigenous and the Métis people, and if we do not educate ourselves, and I'm going to be honest, I've only been educating myself within the last 10 years when I came up with the knowledge that my mother and all of her siblings, as well as her parents, all are survivors of residential schools. So just like everybody else likes to do these ancestry things, this is a part of our history of Canada. Just like there's other things within our history of Canada, perhaps that maybe we shouldn't be proud of. But the only way to move forward is to educate ourselves and take what we learn and put it to good use so that we can have a strong community, a strong area that we live in. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I have a resolution, and it was requested that it is a recorded vote. Is that correct, Councillor Shine?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ferguson.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Shine, seconded by Councillor Lyons. Recommendation that that Atikokan Town Council accept a corporate-wide land acknowledgement, and that a draft land acknowledgement will be presented at a future meeting of council for council discussion and approval. So I'd just like to reiterate on that kind of to Councillor Stimson's comment, that we will have some input on how the resolution goes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll bring forward the information that I gather, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll move forward on it. Make something that's acceptable to all of us.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clear that up, that we're not gonna be presented with something, and
I'm not going to bring it forward to you and say, this is what you're doing, and you have no choice.
appreciate that. So we'll go to a recorded vote. The recorded vote is in alphabetical order, except the mayor goes last. So Councillor Johnson, accept or yes or no on this resolution to have a land acknowledgement?
I would accept it knowing that there's going to be discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Knowles, you're on video.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Lyons? Councillor Martin? Councillor Shine?
Yes.
Councillor Stimpson? Mayor Ferguson says yes as well, so it's carried 7-0. When can we expect that to move forward, Clerk Bates? Okay, thank you, everybody, for that.
I'll work with Councillor Shine.
Yes.
We can come up with something.
All of the Indigenous offices are closed effective Friday till the new year.
Perfect.
And some of other committees that I've been on, when we approved this, we had a few different ones that we could look at.
Yes.
And
I do too.
and decide on.
Yes, I have them as well.
Great. Thank you. Moving forward, crossing guard booths. Councillor Stimpson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I was looking at that TB News Watch there one time, and they had a school carpentry shop, and the kids made booths for the replaced booths for the crossing guards. They've had them for years. My grandson, when he was going to school in Thunder Bay, I was taking him there, and they have these booths, and it's just something for the traffic guards to back up and get out of the 40-mile-an-hour wind or whatever we have. And I thought, geez, that'd be a neat idea of showing how much we appreciate what they're doing, you know, looking after the kids. Since then, I've been talking with some other people, and you know, it's where we could put them, how we can get them off the road, so you don't want to have them so that you have to pick them up and carry them off the area so they don't get plowed away or anything. But I just thought it would be something that, you know, I see some of them poor crossing guards standing there, and it's 40 below or 30 below with a wind, and they're standing out there with their paddles there waiting for kids to come. You know, I just thought it would be something to think about anyways.
Anybody else have a comment, question? I have a comment. I was discussing this with Councillor Stimpson, and I'm 100% in favor of this. They do go out there, rain or shine, the wind, the rain. You know, if we could show some respect and some appreciation, as Councillor Stimpson said, for, I think we have 3 crossing guard places. I think that's something that I would like to see added into the 2026 budget. And I know whenever we do something, there's always reasons not to do it. I think those reasons can be overcame, and I would like to see this moving forward. Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I agree. Perhaps we could reach out to the Fix-It Club that does it, but perhaps, I don't know if they still have it in high school. I mean, we had it in the day when we went to school, the woodworking portion of it. Maybe it's something that the high school would like to take on as a project moving forward, and we can kind of work out a budget maybe perhaps with one of them.
Yes, Jason.
So we do appreciate our crossing guards, absolutely, you know, and we don't take them for granted. I think they do a wonderful job, and like you said, you know, they're out there regardless of the weather. The most important difference, I think, between the city and Atikokan is when the crossing guards in the city are not able to have their vehicles close by, right? They're just the way the streets are, they are totally exposed. We're very fortunate in our community that the 3 spots, our crossing guards do have their vehicles there. They can go in there, and I know they have in the past jumped in there if the vehicle's running. And their vehicles would certainly be a little warmer than a wooden sort of structure. There hasn't been a request. Appreciate you saw that on the news. That's great. But I'm not sure if that's maybe the solution. First off, I don't know if there's a problem. If there is a problem, I don't know if that is the solution, but this is the first that's come up for us.
Councillor Stimson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Well, the person who's over at the corner of Pine, they have to park over in the, across the street. That wouldn't be too safe for her to be running over there and sitting in her car there, and then kids show up, she's got to run back and forth. And then Mr. Cooper, he's standing at the corner there, and his car's way on the other side of the road. The town, I think, plows a spot for him that he can park his car. It's not as if they're just leaning on the hood of their car doing this job. They're a fair ways away from it, and I wouldn't want a crossing guard running back and forth just in case it missed one kid or something. I don't know. I know our crossing guards take their job really serious, and some of them even have fun with it. And I don't know. I just thought, yeah, because I never thought of. I just was thinking of the winter time, but she's pouring rain and that. I guess they can have an umbrella or something like that. But this is just a thought. This is thought. That's all.
Oh, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you very much. I agree, it's a great idea. I also agree with Jason that I'm not quite sure of the need yet, so I would suggest in the meantime that administration reach out to the crossing guards and just see what's happening, and if there's opportunities for improvements, or if they feel that there's some shortcomings to them being able to effectively do their jobs, or whether what they're doing now seems to work fine, and then we have that option to move forward and do something that keeps everybody happy and understand, because I feel like right now we're missing that very crucial piece of the puzzle, which is what they're looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe we could ask them if that would be something they're interested. I don't think it's fair to say run your car when it's 30 below and go sit in your car and stay warm, and then run out when a kid comes, and then run back in your car. Maybe we should all take a turn doing a crossing guard job when it's 30 below, and maybe we can tell them that it's not needed.
We'll see you there tomorrow.
So, yes.
Just for clarification, because you're asking for some design, so are we looking to have heated structures for them?
No,
okay.
no, just something to get out of the wind, out of the rain. No, it's not gonna have indoor plumbing or anything. It'll just be something to get out of the rain. Yes, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Seeing as we're talking about crossing guards, who decides that that vehicles should be stopped and the kids walk? Because in other communities I've been to, the kids stop and the vehicles continue. There's backup, in front of Hemlock and my old street there. Like, it seems to me people are trying to get to work and blah, blah, blah. I see Jason's going to maybe comment on that. Thank you.
If I may, yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Our crossing guards are under the clear direction that they are not authorized to stop traffic. They are there to safely escort the children across the street, so you are correct. They cannot stop. They are not supposed to stop traffic.
Most of the time I see them stopping the traffic.
Yeah, those are conversations that do happen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So to further to Councillor Stimson's suggestion, can I get a vote on, or consensus with council that we continue to explore this? Is anybody against it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Next up is Rainy River District Municipal Association request resolution. Okay, this is something that we put forward, moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Lyons. Whereas the Rainy River District Municipal Association holds an annual general meeting in January each year, rotating the host municipalities, and whereas the town of Atikokan is geographically easternmost municipality in the district, and depending on the selected host location, this location can require significantly longer and more difficult winter travel for attendees. And whereas mid-January meeting dates often results in winter driving conditions, limited daylight hours, and increased travel-related costs for Atikokan compared to other member municipalities, and whereas Atikokan successfully hosted the 2024 AGM in Fort Francis, acting as the host role while the meeting itself was held in a central, larger community capable of supporting delegates' attendance and minimizing travel disparities between municipalities. And whereas the RRDMA traditionally schedules its annual general meeting prior to the NOMA general meeting, which is typically held in April, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Atikokan requests that the RRDMA amend its AGM practices as follows. AGM location model, that the AGM to be held each year in a central location within the Rainy River District, such as Fort Francis, while continuing to rotate the designation of host municipality within the with the hosting role limited to welcome remarks, choosing the annual charity and related ceremonial functions, and the AGM timing, that the AGM be moved from mid-January to a later winter, early spring date, preferably March, provided it remains prior to the annual NOMA AGM. And further be it resolved, this resolution be submitted to the RRDMA Resolution Committee for circulation to member municipalities prior to the January 10th, 2026 AGM. This is something that we asked for. So I think everybody is in agreement. So moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Lyons. Agree with this motion? Carried.
Mayor Ferguson?
Yes.
One thing concerning that, I was kind of surprised that people come up to me the day after we had this meeting, and they said, "Oh, we heard you on the radio." And I had no idea that radios could grab stuff off our meetings, and just because apparently I was on there saying that I wasn't going to kill myself going to a meeting or something like that, and that we had done it in the fort and all that. And like, can they just take somebody's comments and throw it on the radio without asking permission?
Your comments are on YouTube, Brian, that live forever, so anybody can see your comments and
not that I mind
use
it,
your
I just was kind of
comments.
shocked that happens.
So don't be shocked when
it could be something.
you hear your words on the radio.
Good grief.
Next up is Moonbeam's call to end aerial herbicide spraying. That was yours, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I looked that up. That I can't remember the name of the stuff they're spraying. I looked it up, and although it's not that harmful to humans directly, indirectly it could be, because it says in there that if it gets in the water, it harms frogs, and it kills plants that monarch butterflies are attracted to. And I was told a long time ago, and I remember from when I was at university, there's one thing stuck in my head. I guess that's probably the only thing, but it said, if we run out of frogs, this world's in trouble. And I've also heard if we run out of pollinators like bees and butterflies and stuff like that, we're also in trouble. So I would like to see, and there's a lot of other places that have done this. I'd like to see us pass a resolution to do something to get them to stop this aerial spray of this chemical. You know, years ago, I raised monarchs, and years ago, I released 68 a year easy. Last year and the year before, I did not see one monarch, and I have a monstrous milkweed plot in the back of the yard there. So there's something going on that's taking care of these monarchs, and you know, and there's very few other butterflies. That's if we let them indiscriminately wipe out flowering plants in the bush where the pollinators are, we're going to be in trouble. And if it's wiping out the frogs, I haven't seen a frog around here for a long time. And if we wipe out the frogs, what's coming for our world? So I would like to see us join in and pass a resolution that we don't agree with this spray either.
Councillor Knowles, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Is this being sprayed over the municipality? Any resolution we pass would only be binding over the municipal boundaries, and not anywhere else beyond that. So is it being sprayed there, and what sort of recourse of action will we have if it continued? Thank you.
I really don't think we can tell them not to, but we can sure ask that they don't.
I guess the question is it happening now?
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Yeah, I was disappointed that they sprayed the blueberry patches up on the Sunshine this year. I don't know if it was the same. Possibly Councillor Shine, the Indigenous people or the Métis might weigh in on that as well. That might be something to, yeah, I was disappointed the blueberries got sprayed.
It was also a dry summer.
Pardon me?
It was also a dry summer.
Yeah, and there are frogs, but the swamps are all empty.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I just like to say that I agree with Councillor Stimson's proposal to send a resolution of support for this.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I would just ask that Councillor Stimson forward me some information about where he got this, and
Google the name of the.
just send me the information, and then I can, at least I know what I'm talking about.
Yep, okay.
Perfect, thank you.
So I did look a bit into this, and I would just caution council to do a little more research before they do want to put forward or support a resolution. This resolution did come from outside of Northwestern Ontario. There are no neighboring communities to date that have adopted this. And again, we haven't really necessarily given the province the opportunity to kind of, answer back. The information you're looking at is specific from a group that is opposing this. The town, maintains ongoing working relationships with our provincial ministries, and the forest sector continues to be an important part of our local and regional economy. Our MPP is actually, as we know, the Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products. So staff would recommend that further information be obtained before council pass a resolution. Thank you.
I agree. Yeah, I get some independent information, and let the Ministry of Natural Resources answer back towards this, because I don't know what this does, and I could find 100 articles on the internet that says it's bad, and I could find 100 things that say it's good. So I'd just like to get more information before we put our hand up with, a resolution. There's 444 municipalities in Ontario, and they have 26 signed on. So I'd like to get more information, and maybe we could put it on the agenda again in a month or so. We get more information. Councillor Sean?
Yes, I just asked that the CAO forward me any information that he was just speaking to in regards to, and then, it kind of gives guidelines as to where to start looking and working with the ministry as well.
Yeah, I haven't done any specific research on the fact. I'm just bringing light to our
Yes,
situation and our relationships and where we are, regionally, right?
Perfect, thank you.
One more.
Okay, thanks, yes.
This question for Clerk Bates. Would you happen, do you have emails stored like the original one from Moonbeam? Because I just don't seem to have it, and I don't know the name. It's just something something's phosphate or something. And
Yeah, I can send you what I
okay,
have.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to,
Mayor Ferguson, may I just
yes.
interrupt, please? If we're done with this item, I just have a question as to why Councillor Lyons has turned around in her chair. Did not hear anything about a conflict. If she's going to declare, I'd like her to declare it now, please.
Thank you, Clerk Bates. Yes, I did file a conflict as I am an employee of the MNR.
And that was I read out the disclosure, but I didn't check for anybody that had a pecuniary interest. So thank you for bringing that forward. And thank you for pointing that out, Clerk Bates. And our last topic is something we do annually. So it's season's greetings from the mayor and council. We usually go around the council chambers and people can and give the public their season's greetings. So we'll start with Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. On behalf of myself and my family, I wish all of our community a wonderful holiday season and the best in the new year.
Councillor Stimson. Thank you. Councillor Knowles, you're normally in that seat next to him.
Thank you very much. I just want to say happy holidays and be safe, be kind to each other, and we will see everyone in the new year. Thank you for all the hard work that's done at that table, in that room, and in our community. Appreciate it all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Martin.
Yep, thanks on behalf of the Martin family. Season's greetings, and hope everybody has a healthy new year. If you're getting together with people, hopefully everybody's gonna avoid the flu and whatever else is going around, and looking forward to working with everybody in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lyons.
On behalf of myself and my family, I'd like to wish the town of Atikokan a very happy and prosperous holiday season and all the best in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Good evening. My wife and I would like to wish all the folks of Atikokan a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We hope you enjoy the Christmas holidays with family and friends. And if you are traveling to be with family or friends, please travel safely. We would like at this time to thank the town office staff, the public works workers, the Atikokan Hydro staff, the fire department, the police service, the paramedics, and hospital staff for keeping our town running so well and the people within Atikokan safe. Also a shout out to all the volunteers that put on and hold special events in town so that the citizens in town can enjoy special and unique events. Without you folks, these would not happen. Thank you very much, and everyone have a great Christmas.
Councillor Johnson prepared. So I'll read my final message. So, as Christmas draws near, I want to share my warmest wishes with all of you. The holiday season is a time to celebrate traditions, enjoy the company of friends and family, and reflect on the year that has passed. It's also a chance to look ahead with hope and excitement for what's to come. This past year has been filled with moments that brought us together, from community events and local celebrations to the everyday connections that make our town such a special place to live. The holidays give us the perfect opportunity to pause, appreciate those achievements, and recognize the spirit of togetherness that defines our community. At the same time, it's important to remember those who may be facing challenges this season. Not everyone has the same opportunities to celebrate and I encourage all of us to keep the less fortunate in our thoughts. Whether through a donation, volunteering, or simply offering kindness, we can all help make the season brighter for everyone. Whether you're gathering around the Christmas tree, enjoying a festive meal, or simply taking a well-deserved break, I hope this season brings you joy, laughter, and peace. Let's carry that spirit into the new year, building on the successes we've shared and embracing the opportunities that lie ahead. So on behalf of the town, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May the season be bright, and may the year ahead be filled with happiness and prosperity for all of us. And with that, a move by Councillor Lyon, second by Councillor Johnson. Resolved that this meeting do now adjourn. In favor? Carried. Happy